So let's take it all to North Africa, where the 2023 edition of the African Economic Outlook was released today in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, by the African Development Bank at its ongoing annual meetings. The new report was focused on the urgency of Africa's climate finance and green economy. Let's take excerpts from the report unveiling by the EFDB's chief economist and one of its vice president, Professor Kevin Oramah.
In 3 chapters. The first one looks at the outlook for Africa with regard to macroeconomic fundamentals. The second on how to harness those to mobilize private sector financing to drive climate and green growth in Africa. The third looks at how we can leverage the huge assets we have on the continent, natural capital, to be able to drive inclusive growth and climate for development in Africa. Then we will have recommendations, which we try to focus on clear, practical actions that can be taken at different levels by different stakeholders. I'll get to that. Let us just get into the first chapter of the report. In the first chapter, we look at the Africa's economic outlook. As you can see on this slide, the outlook is positive. Despite the confluence of shocks that we have discussed here, the COVID, the climate, and also the conflicts, and also structural changes, issues that remain on Africa's economy in different African regions and countries, the continent grew by 3.8% in 2022. This is higher than the 3.4% of average growth globally. Looking ahead, we see an acceleration of that growth path, with 4% projected at the end of 2023 and 4.3% projected at the end of 2024. And 5 of Africa's fast-growing economies are set to return to the league of the 10 fastest-growing economies in the world. I think Africa needs an applause. For this performance and outlook, it's not the same across the regions. There are always heterogeneities depending on economic structures, dependence on natural resources, and other factors that you will find when you read the report in detail. I want to point out, for want of time, credit to Eastern Africa region. This region was the only region that escaped recession during the COVID-19 pandemic and has continued an upward trajectory in growth, with an estimated 5.1% GDP growth in 2023, and in 2023 that will continue to go higher, even to 5.8. Southern Africa, on the other side, continues to face strong headwinds because of structural issues, energy shortages, and other factors were already discussed in the macroeconomic outlook report launched in January this year. For all the other regions, the central, the western, the northern, maintain also positive trajectory in growth. So the resilience of Africa's economies cuts across the regions. We will be releasing next month, regional economic outlook reports to have deep dive analysis on each regions, and in July we will come to you with the country focus reports that will try to have deep dives on key actions that each country needs to take depending on their own peculiarities. For this growth projection that we share, if I go back there briefly, I want to make a point on the right side of the slide there. You'll find different economic groupings on the continent depending on economic characteristics. Dependence on tourism, dependence of natural resources, resource-based economies, and so on. And then you find that only one of that is actually continuing the trajectory of upward growth. We saw and reported to you in 2022 the resurgence of growth in tourism-dependent economies, but this is now going down because of the tapering of savings that we have in these tourism source countries. But when you look at the other ones, you find that the non-resource intensive economies, which are much more diversified, continues to go forward with recovery. So our projection is that such economies will continue to show marked resilience in the coming years. But overall, a positive outlook. But that positive outlook comes with cautious optimism, because we still continue to have challenges in several macroeconomic fundamentals and their underpinnings. Here we can see, because of the fiscal conditions around the world and the consolidation in fiscal policy and monetary policy, we're seeing exchange rate devaluations across several countries of this continent.